Okay, get yourself ready for your morning practice. Sit yourself on a lift and come into a good cross-leg position. Just have a little wriggle about to make sure that you're sitting evenly. That was the floor creaking, by the way. So just have a little wriggle about. Make sure that your seat bones feel level. And then hold onto your knees. Elevate your heart area up to the ceiling and draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Look down at the floor. Look at something that isn't moving. Just fill your lungs from the bottom to the top and empty your lungs from the top to the bottom. Soften your jaw, soften your tongue, soften your throat. Release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste, press the palms firmly together, lengthen from your armpits and your elbows. Squeeze the hands firmly together. And then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Just focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Filling your lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Just observe your breathing as you fill the lungs. Try to make both lungs fill evenly and empty evenly. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift your chest up to meet your chin. Drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something, or someone, or somewhere. Just release the backs of your hands down toward your knees as you hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. Connect the tip of your index finger with the thumb, stretching the other fingers away from the palm of the hand, just a gesture of peacefulness and wisdom that we can carry into our practice. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just hold onto your knees, and again, just elevate the heart area upwards, lifting the heart area up to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears so you can elongate the neck. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across. Your ribs and your shoulders drawing from the left to the right. Continuing to observe the lungs as they fill evenly and they empty evenly. And then come back to the center. Hold on to the knees, lift up into the chest, take a deep inhalation, and then turn to the left. Drawing the abdomen across the ribs and the shoulders, keeping the neck soft. So listening to the breath. Using the out breath to move more deeply into the pose, into the turn. And then come back to the center. And then stretch your legs out. So just stretch out your legs. If you've got a belt handy, throw a belt around your feet. Have your feet hip width apart. The belt around your feet and then push your legs into the belt. Now if you feel like you've got your legs, the tops of your legs trapped on your lift, then just shuffle forwards a little so that the backs of the thighs are free of the lift. It will just help you to stretch out the legs. You can roll over, move the buttock flesh out to the side, just so again, so that you're sitting right on the front edge of the seat bones. Push the feet into the belt, pull on the belt so that you can lift your heart area, so like you're kind of riding a horse almost, although of course your legs wouldn't be stretched out, but the upper body like you're riding a horse. Lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards, pulling on the belt. See if you can roll right onto the front edge of the seat bones. Roll onto the front edge of the seat bones so that the front rim of the pelvis comes closer towards the top of the thighs. Scoop the abdomen up to the diaphragm, up to the collarbone. Just push your legs away, pull against the legs to keep the chest lifted. And then just a little bit at a time, gently come forwards, lifting up into the chest, lifting the heart area up to the ceiling, and then just gently coming forwards, and then just bring your hands around the feet. But if you've got a bad back, then just stay at this first stage. if it's aggravating your back. So come forwards, lift up into the heart area, slam the shins into the floor, turn the fronts of the shins inwards from the little toe side to the big toe side. Lift up into the heart area. Press the shins into the floor, tighten the kneecaps. Activate the thighs by lifting the thigh muscle up to the top of the leg and pushing the front of the thigh muscle into the back of the thigh. Lifting up into the chest. And then release, come back to the centre. And then come off your seat bones, just come up onto your knees. And sit back on your heels. So just sit back on your heels for a moment and then roll your heels away from each other so that the outer buttock kind of makes really good contact with the feet. Lift up into the heart area. And as you lift up into the heart area, come forwards, pressing your hands into the floor, really spreading the palms, and then lengthen your arms away, hitting the seat bones down into the heels, and then finally just bringing the head down. But if you find that you lose contact between the seat bones and the heels, then just put a block underneath your head at whichever height you need. So the priority is to keep the seat bones connected with the heels. Keep the heart area lifted. So use a block under your head and just observe the difference. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Pressing the shins into the floor. Almost like you want to push the knees away from each other. So that the thighs activate, lengthening from the knees into the hips. And then from the hips into the armpits, into the elbows, into the wrists, into the palms of the hands. Pushing the palms of the hands into the floor deeply so that you lengthen in two directions, from the hips into the palms and from the palms into the hips. Come up onto your knees and then spread the fingers, spread the palms. If you're not doing dog down, then you can go into supta, baddha, konasana or dandasana again, and then have the feet in dog down, have the feet as wide apart as the mat, and then elevate the heart area upwards, lift the seat bones upwards, straighten in the legs. Pressing the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards so that your heels start to separate. Take deep inhalations and exhalations, listening to the breath. Listen to the sound of the breath, whichever pose you're doing. If you're doing dandasana, then work your legs really deeply into the floor. If you're in dog down, work your legs, the fronts of the legs into the backs of the legs, lifting up into the heart area. So when I say lifting up into the heart area in dog down, it's not lifting the heart area up to the ceiling, it's lifting the heart area up to the head. Draw the shoulder blade region in. And then step your feet forward. Come up into a standing position and then get a couple of blocks for your hands for half-uttanasana, or you can use the back of a chair or a tabletop if you've got a bad back, so you don't go down quite so low, so you just come to here. So have your feet as wide apart as your mat with the toes turning inwards. Stamp the big toe into the floor and stretch the little toes out to the side. Have your hands on your hips and lift up into the chest. So at first, this can make you kind of do a banana shape. So consciously hit the shins back so that your weight goes into your heels, hit your thighs back. Initially tuck the tailbone in, lift up into the heart area, wing the elbows back. And then hinge at the hips, so you're starting to turn the tailbone up to the ceiling, but keeping the head and the chest stretching forward away from your legs. When you're halfway, reach down and find the blocks beyond fingertips. So regardless of whether you can go down lower, it's always good to start high, especially if you've had a little time off your yoga practice. Just start high to begin with, activating those thighs, pressing the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards so that the heels feel like they want to separate a little more. Hit the shins back so that your weight goes into the center of the heel, and then pick up the seat bones away from the backs of the heels, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Reach down, projecting the chin and the chest forwards, listening to the breath. If you can go down all the way to the floor, then do, but if you've got a bad back, just stay high, projecting the chin and the chest forwards, lengthening the chin and the chest forwards. Activating the thighs, turning those thighs inwards, broadening the backs of the thighs at the same time. So observe that when you turn the front of the leg inwards, you turn the back of the thigh outwards. And that gives you space to lift the seat bones and the tailbone a little more. So like in Dandasana at the beginning, when we come forwards into these forward bends, it's about bringing that front rim of the, so it's almost like if you were on the floor, you would be rolling onto the front edge of the seat bones and drawing the front rim of the pelvis into the tops of the thighs. And then you lengthen the spine away. Okay, bring your hands up into your hips. Sorry, hands into your hips, and then come up into a standing position, bending your knees all the way up if you need to. And then come into Tadasana, just inner edge of your feet together, big toes together, lift up into the chest. So, in Tadasana, it's the same action, and this is really Tadasana is the central kind of focus of the standing poses, of all poses really. But effectively, if you don't have to lift your shorts, I'm just doing this so you can see my legs better. So tighten your kneecaps, draw your kneecaps into the sockets. Unless you've got problems with your knees, and there's a reason why, if they overbend, just activate the thighs instead. Otherwise, push the front of the knee through to the back of the knee and turn the inner knee towards the back of the room. And then turn the front of the thigh inwards from the little toes to the big toes. And then relax. And then notice that when you relax, relax the legs kind of turn outwards and the backs of the thighs turn inwards. So just reactivate your legs, tighten your kneecaps, press the front of the knee through to the back of the knee, turn those inner knees towards the back of the room. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards and observe how the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. And then let go again. And then notice that the backs of the thighs kind of sink in. So one more time, tighten the kneecaps, Draw the inner knee towards the back of the room. Notice how the backs of the thighs turn outwards. Draw the fronts of the thighs inwards and feel how the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. And then, without disturbing the legs, tuck the tailbone in. So it almost like turning the legs inwards gives the tailbone a little more space to draw inwards. So the front rim of the pelvis lifts up to the waist and then lift up into the chest. Keep those legs really firmly activated with those directions. Stretch your arms forwards, interlock your fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then raise your arms over your head. But try not to lose those distinct actions of the legs. So kneecaps tightening, the inner knees drawing towards the back of the room, the fronts of the thighs turning inwards, and then the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. And then you find a little extra space to tuck the tailbone in. Lift from the hips up into the armpits, into the elbows, into the wrists. Spread in the palms, presenting the palms to the skies. Release your arms, try not to disturb your legs. Swap the interlock of the fingers so that you do the unnatural interlock. Turn the palms up and then reach up again. So just feel how rotation of the fronts of the thighs inwards makes the backs of the thighs feel like they broaden outwards. Drawing the tailbone in. And then release, just bring your arms down. So keep that action of turning the fronts of the thighs in so that the backs of the thighs feel like they broaden out. Spread the toes of the left leg. Keep that left leg in firm Tadasana and then bring the foot as high up into the thigh as you can. And again, just go back to turning that front of the thigh inwards. Tightening the kneecap, drawing the back of the knee, the inner knee towards the back of the room, turning the front of the thigh inwards so you can feel that the back of the thigh broadens outwards. Lift up into the chest and then raise your arms. Arms parallel to each other, reaching up to the ceiling. So maybe you notice that the stronger and more precise your Tadasana leg, the more even your balance. So look at something that doesn't move so that your eyes are still in the sockets. And then release your arms and then come back into Tadasana. So again, just resetting your Tadasana. Tightening the kneecaps, turning the inner knees towards the back of the room. You want to push the inner knees away from each other so that you lift the insteps. Turn the front of the thigh inwards. So the back of the thigh broadens outwards. And then bring the left foot up into the stand-in thigh. Just lift up into the chest, really focusing on that forward thigh turning inwards, the back of the thigh turning outwards. And then raise your arms over your head. Parallel palms facing each other. Keeping that Tadasana leg really firm. So of course there will be natural fluctuations, natural adaptations. But try to bring that Tadasana leg as precisely as possible so that your balance feels much more stable. then release your arms and release your legs. So everyone's balance was much more stable. So it's that activation of the leg, the turning the thighs inwards. Now when we do poses like trikonasana and virabhadrasana 2 and parsvottanasana, we turn the legs in the opposite direction. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to stay with this action. So even though you're turning the legs in the opposite direction, you're still kind of doing tadasana legs, but you're just activating them in the opposite way. And that's just to keep the hips open. We can do parsvottanasana. So you might want a couple of blocks at the sides, like that, to have those if you need them. That's if you can't reach the floor. It's always handy to have them there just in case. So come back into your tadasana. Tighten your kneecaps, turn the inner knees towards the back of the room. Now that does have an effect of making you drop the insteps a little. So turning the inner knee back does make you drop the insteps a little. So feel that, where the kind of inner edge of the feet kind of press together more firmly, but then push the inner knees away from each other. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, tucking the tailbone in, lifting up into the chest. The fronts of the thighs turning inwards, the backs of the thighs turning outwards, tucking the tailbone in. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest, and then step or jump nice and wide with your legs. And then turn your left legs in really steeply, like with quite an acute angle, and then rotate all the way on your right foot so that the foot is facing the side of the room. But at this stage, you can feel where your hips are. They kind of don't feel parallel with the end of your mat. They're kind of facing kind of outwards like this. So pick up that back heel and turn that heel all the way out. And then feel that you can bring the pelvis more parallel with the front edge of the mat. And then tighten the kneecaps on both legs. Draw the inner knees towards the back of the room. As you do that with the back leg, observe that it makes this front hip come forwards, turning that inner knee towards the back of the room. Brings the hips more level. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards so that the backs of the thighs feel like they broaden outwards. So especially of the back leg, but of both legs. Then have your hands on your hips, lift up into the chest. And then hinge at the hips. Come forwards and find the blocks. Or if you can come all the way down to the floor, but not like this. So if the back starts to round, then come up onto the blocks. Be on fingertips. And just work those legs. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, tighten the kneecaps. Turn the inner knee towards the back of the room, especially of that back leg. Have your heels in line with each other. Project the chin and the chest forwards. Just maybe incrementally go down a little lower, come onto a lower lift on the blocks. But if you start to round your back like this, you start to lose the straightness of the legs, then go higher. Projecting the chin and the chest forwards. If you can come down to the floor, then keep that back leg especially turning, but keep that front leg turning, the front of the thigh turning inwards, the inner knee rotating towards the back of the room. Just feel that your hips are level. If you can walk your chest down towards the leg, but keep the head lifted. Walk your hands towards the back foot. Keep turning that front leg so that the shin rotates from the little toe to the big toe side. You're trying to get your head down to the toes, but the chin rather than the forehead. Okay, and then walk your hands forwards, bend that front leg slightly, and then step forward, and then come up into a standing position. And then put your blocks onto the other side. And then stand in the middle of your mat again. Lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards. Activating your kneecaps. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, turning the inner knees towards the back of the room. So you feel that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. That is how we get our levelness in parsvottanasana. Bring your arms out nice and wide, and then step or jump nice and wide with your legs. Turn your right toes in steeply, and then rotate all the way on the other leg. Pick up the other heel and then turn it all the way out. So you've got as good a chance as possible of bringing the hips level. Have your hands on your hips and feel that they're level with each other. The back hip isn't behind the front hip. Tighten the kneecaps, draw the inner knees towards the back of the room so that the backs of the thighs broaden. Lift up into the heart area and then come forwards. Reach down and then project the chin and the chest forwards. Spread in the toes, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts, the inner knees towards the back of the room so that the thighs are turning. If you can go down lower, then do, but maintain the projection of your chest. If you can reach down to the floor, then do, maintaining that projection of the chest. And then again, if you can walk your chest along that leg, but keeping the head lifted, keeping the chin driving forwards towards the foot, then do. So one side may feel kind of less or more reluctant than the other. So just work to your point of resistance and then analyze that point of resistance. Why is it there? Okay, bring your hands forwards, bend that front leg, step forwards, come up into a standing position, and then be back into hadasana. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, and then again raising your arms over your head. Palms parallel to each other, arms straight. And then gently release your hands, come down onto your knees. Bring your hands shoulder width apart, really spread in the palms. And then step back a little, turn your toes under, have your feet hip width apart. And then come up into dog down, just correcting the alignment of your feet if they're not in line with the hands. Activating your legs in Tadasana, tightening the kneecaps, turning the inner knees towards the back of the room so that the fronts of the thighs broaden inwards, backs of the thighs broaden outwards, and then you can lift the seat bones higher, lift the tailbone higher. So that activation of the legs works to give you space in the hips. And it's a significant difference. So find that ability to lift the tailbone and the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs. But those backs of the thighs have to broaden outwards first. Let's keep turning the fronts of the thighs so that the heels are separating, so that the backs of the thighs are broadening, so that the seat bones can lift. Okay, and then just come down onto your knees. Just sit back on your heels for a moment. And then observe your energy. Observe the lightness of energy in the arms, and in the chest, and in the legs, and in the head. And then come down onto your back into supta, baddha konasana. So let the feet fall apart. Have the soles of the feet together. Let the knees fall apart. If you've got stiffness in your hips, then you can put some blocks underneath the outsides of the thighs. Otherwise, just allow gravity to open up the inner groin. Have your hands on your lower ribs. And just focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. It's nice to take your glasses off at this stage just to rest your face, especially as it's warm. It's 20 degrees today, which maybe other countries won't think is very warm, but for the UK, that is pretty warm, isn't it? So our bodies aren't necessarily used to the heat. Just soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat, and then just feel the lungs from the bottom to the top, just observing that breath. Okay, and then draw your knees together, your feet apart. Just resting your back into the floor momentarily. And then get hold of your shins and pull your feet in close to the seat bones. Pull your right knee in towards the chest, and then bring that right knee over the top of the left thigh. And then hold on to that right foot with the left hand, and then lengthen the right knee away from the body, away from the chest, just to open up in the front of the groin. And then release. Pull your left knee in towards your chest. Just grip underneath the left knee and then draw that left knee in towards the chest. So supta, kapotasana, the reclining pigeon. Drawing that knee in towards the chest. Just feeling the back of the gluteus muscles and the lower back just stretching out. and then release, and then uncross the foot, and then pull in the left knee. Bring the left foot across the top of the right thigh, at the top of the thigh if you can. Hold onto that left foot with the right hand, and then just lengthen that left knee away from the chest, away from the head. Just to open up in that inner groin region. And then release that knee. Just keep hold of the foot, and then bring the right knee in towards the chest. Hold onto the back of the right knee, and then draw that right knee in towards the body, in towards the chest. Just feeling the back of the hip on the left side opening up, the lower back stretching. You can have a little rock, gentle rock from side to side, just to kind of really massage out the spine. And then release the leg, just uncross the leg, and then just stay with the knees together and the feet apart for a moment or two, just to rest out the knees, rest out the back. And then hold on to the edges of the mat. Pull your knees in towards your chest, and then lengthen your legs up towards the ceiling. So viparita, karanhi. You can hold on to the sides of the mat like you want to tear it apart, so that you can really keep the chest open. And then maybe just see if you can bring the legs wide, like you're doing an upside down urdhva konasana. And lengthen into the inner heels, and then lengthen those inner heels back to the ceiling. Bring the legs back up to the ceiling. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations, stamping down the sacrum spine, lengthening up into the heels, turning the thighs inwards, turning those inner knees inwards, feeling the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. So you may very well have the big toes together and the heels separating. You turn those thighs in like tadasana. Okay, and then just bend your knees, bring your feet back down onto the floor, and then just rock yourself up into a seated position. Get a folded blanket for your head, and then just align yourself down the center of your mat. So make sure you're in a really good straight line before you relax, because then you will be able to relax more efficiently, more quickly. Again, take your glasses off if you're still wearing them, and then just allow yourself to release into the floor. So we've done a lot of work around the front of the pelvis. So just let the front of the pelvis soften and relax. Breathe even deep inhalations and exhalations. Just focusing on filling both lungs evenly and emptying them evenly. As you release into the floor, consciously unhook the arm and the leg muscles so that the physical body becomes heavy on the ground. Consciously allow the physical body to become heavy on the floor. But out of that heaviness comes a lightness of energy that radiates out from the bones. Radiating into the muscles, and the organs, and the flesh and the skin. Use your in-breath and your out-breath to fill your body with that energy, just to distribute it down into the tips of the toes, into the tips of the fingers, and all the way up into the top of the head. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And then when you're ready, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. Just bring yourself back into this pose of shavasana. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll over onto the right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out your top leg, come back up into the seated position. Just coming into cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Close your eyes and draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Just be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the standing poses and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. Just send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you have really lifted your energy. You've given yourself a good old stretch and you feel ready to take on the day. So thank you very much for joining me.